April 22, 1945. Deep beneath the shattered streets of Berlin, in a concrete bunker 20 feet underground, Adolf Hitler stands hunched over a map table. His hands tremble uncontrollably. His face, once animated with furious energy, now appears gray and lifeless. For 12 years, he has commanded the most destructive military machine in human history. He has conquered nations, ordered the deaths of millions, and very nearly reshaped the world in his twisted vision. But on this day, something breaks. To understand the moment Hitler's certainty shattered, we must first understand the man who believed himself invincible. By early 1945, the Third Reich, the thousand-year empire Hitler promised, was collapsing from all sides. The Soviets were pushing from the east. The Americans and British from the west. Germany's cities lay in ruins, pulverized by years of Allied bombing. Yet Hitler refused to acknowledge reality. He had done this before. Turned impossible situations into victories through sheer will and desperate gambles. The remilitarization of the Rhineland. The annexation of Austria. The conquest of France. Each time, his generals had warned him of disaster. Each time, he had been proven right. This pattern created a dangerous delusion. Hitler came to believe that willpower alone could bend reality. By April 1945, Hitler's grip on reality had become increasingly tenuous. He spent his days in the Führerbunker, a claustrophobic maze of concrete rooms beneath the Reich Chancellery garden. The air was stale, recycled. The walls sweated with condensation. Outside, Berlin burned. But Hitler still believed in salvation. His final hope had a name: Felix Steiner. SS Obergruppenführer Felix Steiner commanded what Hitler called Army Detachment Steiner, a grandiose name for a force that existed more on paper than in reality. It consisted of depleted SS units, poorly armed Luftwaffe ground personnel, and even Hitler Youth children given rifles too heavy for them to carry. Hitler ordered Steiner to attack the Soviet forces encircling Berlin from the north. This attack, he declared, would cut off the Soviet spearhead, relieve the city, and turn the tide of the entire war. His generals knew it was impossible. Steiner knew it was impossible. Their army barely had fuel for its vehicles or ammunition for its guns. But no one dared tell the Führer the truth. The morning military briefing on April 22 began like dozens before it. Hitler's inner circle gathered in the conference room: Generals Krebs, Bergdorf, and Jodl, along with various adjutants and secretaries. Hitler demanded updates on Steiner's attack. The room fell silent. There had been no attack. Steiner, recognizing the futility and not wanting to send boys to pointless slaughter, had simply refused to follow the order. His army remained in position, unable and unwilling to launch a suicidal offensive. When Hitler learned this truth, something inside him snapped. Witnesses described what happened next as the most terrifying display of rage they had ever seen. Hitler began screaming that he had been betrayed, that everyone had lied to him, that the military had sabotaged him from the beginning. His face turned red. Veins bulged in his forehead. Spittle flew from his mouth. For nearly 30 minutes, the tirade continued. Officers stood frozen, terrified to move or speak. Some accounts mention that Hitler threw himself into a chair, trembling violently, gasping that everything was lost, that the war was finished, that Germany was destroyed. Then came the words no one expected to hear. The war is lost. For the first time in the entire conflict, Hitler openly admitted defeat. The man who had never accepted the word impossible now spoke it himself. He announced he would remain in Berlin. He would not flee to Bavaria or to some Alpine redoubt. He would not seek refuge in neutral territory. He would stay in the bunker until the end, and then he would take his own life. The room remained silent. Several of his closest advisors begged him to reconsider, to leave Berlin, to continue the fight. Hitler refused. His face, witnesses said, had transformed. The fury was gone, replaced by something worse: emptiness. So what really happened in that bunker on April 22nd? The answer is more complex than a simple military defeat. Hitler's breakdown wasn't caused by one lost battle. Germany had suffered far worse setbacks. This was something deeper, the complete collapse of the psychological framework that had sustained him. Hitler had built his entire identity on the myth of his own infallibility. He wasn't just a leader; in his mind, he was a historical force, chosen by destiny to reshape civilization. Every victory confirmed this belief. Every obstacle overcome proved his supernatural will. But this belief system was fundamentally brittle. It couldn't accommodate failure. When Steiner's attack, his final gamble, failed to materialize, the entire mythology shattered. Psychologists call this ego collapse, the moment when a grandiose self-image can no longer be reconciled with reality. For someone like Hitler, whose identity was so deeply fused with the concept of inevitable triumph, admitting defeat wasn't just acknowledging a military fact. It was acknowledging that everything he believed about himself was a lie. After April 22, Hitler became a ghost haunting his own bunker. The manic energy was gone. He spoke in monotones. His famous rages became rare. He spent his time planning his suicide with the same meticulous attention he had once devoted to military campaigns. He tested cyanide capsules on his dog, Blondie, to ensure they worked. He dictated his political testament, a rambling document that blamed everyone but himself for Germany's destruction. On April 29, with Soviet soldiers just streets away, Hitler married his longtime companion Eva Braun in a brief civil ceremony. Less than 40 hours later, on April 30, they both committed suicide, Eva by cyanide, Hitler by a combination of cyanide and a gunshot to the head. Their bodies were carried upstairs to the garden, doused in gasoline, and burned. 8 days later, Germany surrendered unconditionally. The exact moment Hitler knew it was over wasn't when the Allies landed at Normandy. It wasn't when the Soviets reached German soil. It wasn't even when Berlin was surrounded. It was that moment on April 22, 1945, when the final illusion shattered, when even he could no longer lie to himself about what was coming. For 12 years, Hitler had bent an entire nation to his delusional will, dragging the world into the most destructive conflict in human history. Over 70 million people died because of the choices he made. But in the end, reality has a way of asserting itself. You can deny it, rage against it, command it to be otherwise. But you cannot escape it forever. In that bunker, surrounded by the ruins of his thousand-year Reich, Hitler finally learned what happens when delusion meets truth. The delusion always loses. Thank you for watching. If you found this documentary compelling, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most pivotal moments. What other historical turning points should we explore? Let us know in the comments below.